Hey, I'm Sarah, and this is the Goddess in Training podcast. This isn't about being perfect or polished or having it all figured out. This is about what happens when you actually start listening to your body, your intuition, your patterns, your truth. I'm asking big questions and having real conversations, sometimes messy and sometimes magical, with people who've lived through it, grown through it, and still don't have all the answers. If you've ever doubted yourself, betrayed your gut, or wondered if you're the only one, you're not. Let's talk about it. Welcome back to another episode of Goddess in Training. I'm your host, Sarah, and today, we are going somewhere deep, raw, honest, and beautifully untamed. I recently stumbled across a Substack writer whose words hit me like lightning, the kind of truth-telling that wakes something ancient inside you, the kind of woman who says the things most of us only dare to whisper, and I knew instantly, I need to talk to her. Her name is Amy Untamed, and she embodies the word in a way that is real, lived, and earned. If you've been here for any amount of time, you know this show is all about intuition, the inner knowing that rises when we strip away the noise, the conditioning, the good girl programming that keeps us small. And Amy's entire life is a testament to what happens when a woman refuses to be anything but who she truly is. She writes about self-responsibility, celibacy as devotion, feminine expression, raising your standards so high you lose people, but find yourself, and the wild, messy rebirth of a woman who finally realizes she was never meant to fit inside the world's boxes in the first place. In this conversation, Amy and I talk about healing that feels like remembering, relationships that break us open, money and worthiness, the glow-up that begins in the soul, and what it really means to choose yourself so fully that your entire life shifts to match that frequency. This episode is an invitation to come back to that part of you that has always been untamed, the part that never cared about being palatable, the part that remembers exactly who she is. So let's drop in. Welcome back to another episode of Goddess in Training. I'm Sarah, and today I am here with my new friend, Amy Untamed. I came across Amy on Substack and started consuming all of her content. And I love it so much because we talk about intuition on this show. And I feel like to really tap into your intuition, you have to let go of all of the preconceived notions we have, all the things that we've been programmed to believe about ourselves. And the word untamed just really captures that. It's like, let's just get back to who we are and our true nature. And therefore, then be able to tap in and listen to our intuition in a really radical way. So Amy, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to chat.
So, okay, tell me how you became Amy Untamed. Who were you before you took on this new kind of way of being?
I mean, I think I have to some level always been this person, which is why when I was playing around with names, this really fitted because I've been someone who's just always struggled with, and I'm sure you and a lot of your listeners can relate to this, I've just struggled with Earth. I've struggled with kind of the quote unquote matrix way of living and just fitting into mainstream society. Like I've never, ever been able to do it. Even like as a small toddler, I was always very unfiltered, said what I want, wore what I want, did what I want, and was just confused by the way other people were living. I was like, I don't understand it, like what's going on. And, we're very open about it now, but like just really didn't feel like I fit into my family at all. I was like, who are these people? Why are we not on the same wavelength? And so I think we all go through a period of conditioning that kind of gets stripped out of us when we go to school, when we're in our 20s, all of this stuff. There was always an element of me that was the same, but the more that I went on the spiritual path and the more that I went on the healing path, I just realized how it wasn't about really learning anything new at all. It was about just continuing to go back to that tiny version of me who just didn't care and did what she wanted. And so when I started showing up on social media and wanted to really find my people who also felt this way, it just felt very fitting, that name. So yeah, that's how it came about.
And so what does untamed really mean to you today in this moment?
Untamed to me just means like the rawest, truest version of you. And I know that that literally can change second to second because we're so multifaceted and multidimensional and we're always changing and evolving. But like coming back to myself over and over again and saying like, is this true for me? Consuming as little as possible so that my channel can stay as clear as possible and I can just keep coming back to that over and over again. And, you know, I'm sure you relate to this, but like just coming back into my body over and over again and asking myself, like, what do I need? What feels good for me? What's true for me? And with that is usually a lot of just very primal expression. And I say primal, that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be like loud or big, but the way we move our bodies and the noises that we make and the things that we say, if you actually remove questioning, is this right? Is this how other people would behave? Blah, 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 blah. And you actually just allow yourself to be, that to me is untamed. Thinking about an animal, thinking about our ancestors back in the caves or wherever, like they weren't like thinking, oh, should I say this? Like, oh, if I make this noise, are people going to think I'm weird? Like, and just fully embracing that, regardless of the fact that other people in society around you are not going to get that.
Talk more about your journey, your healing journey. What kinds of modalities found you? I often say, I think in my own experience too, I wasn't necessarily seeking things out, but things came to me and just kind of confirmed that this is what I'm supposed to be doing in this period of time. And then after the fact, you realize, whoa, that really was what I needed to get to the next level. What are the different types of things that came to you that got you where you are right now?
So my journey has been very long because I've had a 7-year, being careful with my words here, but it has been a struggle, let's face it, a 7-year struggle with chronic health issues at points which have left me completely housebound and debilitated for months. So I have tried a lot of things. And I will just say, like, I'll preface it by saying everything had a place, everything, you know, served a purpose. But I can honestly say that nothing has been a game changer more than subconscious reprogramming, specifically a tool called Faster EFT. And it's different to normal EFT where you just say, I accept myself and let this go. Within this modality, you go back to core memories that have shaped beliefs and emotions. You remove the emotion from them and you rewrite them into something more positive. So it's a chunkier process. That is something that I do religiously every day. And it has no doubt been the biggest needle mover in terms of health, happiness, my expression, like everything, because everything that we do is based on past experiences, which have then formed beliefs. You know, I've done a lot of other stuff. I went through like quite a big plant medicine phase and lots of somatic healing. I've tried various therapies, but nothing at all changed the game like this, and I will use it forever. And it's one of those things where it's like I can just catch myself so quickly, because if I have a belief, say I was coming on this podcast and I had a belief and I was like, oh, I'm not going to be very good, or I'm nervous, whatever, I can change that. And the power isn't in someone else's hands. I don't have to book a session. I learned how to do the level 1 on myself. You can work with a practitioner. But I think what I've realized about these modalities is whatever you can do to equip yourself is the most empowering thing, and regulate yourself in that moment so you don't have to like reach out for something. And that is what this tool gave me.
Yeah, all healing is self-healing. I tell people when they come to me as a client, as a transition doula, I'm not really doing anything. It's really just asking the questions and giving you permission to do things that you wouldn't necessarily do, and to think about things in a different way to unlock things within yourself, because ultimately we create our own realities. When you talk about removing emotion when you're practicing in this way, what does that actually mean? And because I struggle with the role of emotion in our lives, because it can be so helpful, it can be so connective, but at the same time, we oftentimes fixate on emotion in a really unhelpful way, and then assign a story to an emotion that can then keep us stuck. So when you say remove emotion and then look at the scenario in a different way, what does that actually mean?
So I understand your point, but you've got to think this modality, you are specifically going back to things that have had a negative impact on you. So
Okay.
you're not just, you know, it's the purpose of it is to rewrite negative things or things that have shaped a negative belief system in you. to something more positive. So I totally agree we can assign too much meaning to emotion at times. But if there is something that is subconsciously re-triggering you over and over and over again, in your nervous system, you're going into fight or flight or freeze or whatever, you can change that. And so what this does is you're going back to some sort of negative emotion or memory. You're tapping out, I say removing, but like you're clearing the emotion so that all that's left is an event which then you change to something more positive. If you're in fight or flight response, you can't change a negative thing to a positive one because you're fighting for survival. So the first thing you do with faster EFT is tap down the emotion so that you're calm, and then you can change it to something more positive and rewrite that, and then you replay that in your brain and your nervous system, just like visualization and feeling it essentially. But to do that, you have to get to a point where you're calm enough to do it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. That totally makes sense. So, in your content, you talk so much about relationships and being in a place right now where you've been celibate for over a year. Talk about what that means to you and how that has helped your healing journey.
Yeah. It's so interesting. My content has changed and evolved over the past year, but this is the message that I can't let go. And I think it's because I first just want to say that all of my messages, everything that I share is rooted in radical responsibility. It's not about like hating on men and men being the bad guys and us being like more evolved or whatever. What I am really keen on doing is empowering women to look at their patterns, to look at where they're outsourcing and take radical responsibility for that, because you can keep blaming men until you're blue in the face. But until you choose to take reins on your own life and say, why am I continuously attracting these people? I want to bring the power back to women. And that's what my message is. And because I have had such a interesting journey with that, I mean, I'm sure my story is very relatable to many women, but learned from a young age that, you know, I have to grasp for love, fight for love, change myself for love. That continued into my teenage years where I was just looking for love in all the wrong places. I was getting into relationships that I knew intuitively were not right for me. But it was like, well, he's not totally awful. And, you know, it could be worse. And like, or like my body literally freezes up when we have sex, but maybe that's me. Maybe that's me. And, you know, I have been in a few long-term relationships, and I just noticed this pattern playing out. And also the biggest catalysts for change in my life and for that kind of everything completely shattering and falling apart have been relationships and breakups. So I went through a really big breakup 5 years ago, which was really traumatic. And I just lost myself. Like I lost myself. When I look back at how I behaved, it's very cringy because I begged him back. I literally completely abandoned myself. It's actually what caused me to get very, very sick because I just threw everything about myself out of the window because I was just so desperate to be loved. From that place, then got into another really traumatic relationship that I'm a big believer that when you think that you've healed something, so I was in a place where I'd been celibate for 18 months after this traumatic breakup. I really thought that I was on like the high and mighty evolved path. I was like, I'm so healed. I've done all this work. And then I got into a relationship which was by far the most traumatic relationship I've ever been in my entire life because I hadn't actually healed it. I just kind of sugarcoated it. And within this relationship, I just got sicker and sicker, and I just continued to abandon myself over and over again. I knew that it wasn't right for me, but instead of just seeing it for what it was, I just kept thinking it was something that I needed to fix within myself. It was like, I need to do more healing work. There's something wrong with me if I just can't be with this guy. Like, I took on too much responsibility, which I think is a pattern in women. It's like, we need to do more healing. We need to do more fixing. It's like, no, babe, your intuition is telling you to get out. Just get out if you can. When I finally made this decision to end this relationship, it literally, my body woke me up at 3 a.m. I was like, head over the toilet. And it was like, God was like, if you do not end this, it is going to kill you. It was that bad. And so I didn't know what I was going to do. I had no money. We just signed a lease of a year together, which I put all the money down for, and he was paying me back. So I was very scared because I was like, what am I going to do? I was very sick, so I wasn't earning any money. whoever, God, the universe was like, you don't have a choice. Like, this is going to kill you. And that's when I made the decision, like, I need to have a long, hard look at myself. I need to look at why I got into this relationship and stayed in it, because I'm not responsible for how he treated me, but I am responsible for the fact that I thought I was worthy of this. And I just thought someone who loved themselves would not have been in that relationship, truly. And so then I was like, I need to take some time out. And I can honestly say it is one of the most empowering things I've ever done, because I say celibacy and that can mean different things to different people. It can mean just not having sex. But for me, it was like, no, I'm off men. I'm not on the dating apps. I'm not dating. I'm not seeking. I am going to sit with myself and learn about myself. And the next time I get into a relationship, it's going to be healthy and conscious and loving. And so that's the journey that I've been on for nearly a year and a half now. I've just opened myself up recently to kind of dating again. I haven't actually been on a date yet, but like energetically, because I do think that's the next stage of healing as well. Like you kind of have to put yourself out there and be re-triggered or whatever. But it was really about coming back to myself, learning what I actually want, looking at my patterns, and giving myself the love that I kept desperately seeking in all the wrong places.
Wow. It's so beautiful. I'm a firm believer in my experience in life has been that we really truly need to love ourselves at the level that we want to be loved at before we can actually call in and bring in that love. So what kinds of things do you advise women do to get to that place where you are healed and loving yourself in this really just all-encompassing way without trying to impress another person?
The first thing is, and this is the bit that prevents most people from actually doing this, but I want to be open about it because it's icky. You have to first of all sit through the discomfort of being alone. Because so many of us, and I say this because I had this period when I initially went through the breakup, we want to fill that hole. We want to numb that feeling that is like, oh, am I going to die alone? Oh, am I ever going to find someone again? Like, oh, like I need a distraction. The first thing to tackle is that, because we are so used to distracting, even if it's picking up our phone and scrolling on TikTok for 4 hours, even if it's chocolate, there's always something that we can be numbing, and you have to become conscious of that. And you have to really go there and sit in that discomfort. And, you know, if you need professional help, get it. I had a mentor that helped me through that particularly messy period. And she was incredible. But in that messy period, you're going to learn so much about yourself around, you know, what your distractions are, what your core fears are. And I mean, analyze is a strong word, but like pay attention, because this is the stuff that you can reshape and is then going to put you out onto the other side as a more empowered woman. Your limiting beliefs. So this is where the subconscious reprogramming really came in for me, because it was like, I could look at myself and be like, okay, why did I get into that relationship and why did I stay in that relationship, and dig back into that and be like, well, it's because if I didn't, then I'd never be loved. You know, if I raise my standards, people are going to think I'm too much. People are going to think I'm too picky. Men won't like me. You know, all of these stories, and choosing to change them and rewrite them. So that is like the bit that's like, that's the bit that makes you want to crawl out your skin. I ain't gonna lie. That's the tricky bit. And not just reaching out to a man, whether that's on an app or in real life, to just like get that hit of like, I'm good enough. So like the subconscious reprogramming bit is and the discomfort bit is totally necessary. And then it's coming into your body and asking yourself continuously at first, what feels good for me and what doesn't. And this is important because so many people are not used to asking themselves that. They're just going about their day, doing the things, eating the things, no idea. And so all the time I was like, okay, how does this feel in my body? And the things that made me feel good, even if it was just like in the morning, like having a cup of cacao and being like, actually, this feels really good. Like take that and run with it and do more of it and romanticize and like embellish that. And then the things that don't feel good for you, you have to start looking at that. If you're around people that don't make you feel good, you've got to start setting boundaries. You've got to start protecting your energy. you've got to start having conversations with people about the kind of support that you do need, how they can give it to you. This isn't necessarily about like, social media. And I even did a post today around like sometimes it's absolutely necessary to block people, because it is. I am pro blocking, but having those conversations and taking responsibility and being like, okay, if you want to, how can I keep this person in my life and have a two-way dialogue so that they know where I'm at and they know what I need. And then if there's people that really don't make you feel good and you need to take space, again, you need to have that conversation. And then just starting to build your world around what feels good for you, prioritizing yourself, which women are taught not to do. We're taught that it's selfish. We're taught that something bad's going to happen if we prioritize ourselves. But you have to prioritize yourself above everything. If you've got kids, obviously, prioritize your kids. That's the caveat. But above everyone else, becomes so selfish. I am the most selfish person I know. And it doesn't mean that I don't have a kind heart and I don't care. But I will not give if I don't have anything to give. And the thing is, once you start communicating that with people, at first they might be like, oh, she's a bit like on a high horse or whatever. They get over it. They get used to it. And then now no one would bat an eyelid if I'm like, no, I'm not coming to that because I don't want to. So there's that. And then the other important piece that I rave about is expression. When you do all of the things that I've just mentioned, it's going to free up space in you that you didn't have before. You're going to be feeling better. You're not going to be leaking your energy, and you are going to notice parts of yourself come back online. Roll with that. Okay. It doesn't matter if it doesn't make sense. It doesn't have to be a perfectly curated piece of art that you put out into the world. Just do it. Like when my energy first came back online, like I was writing poems, I was writing songs. They didn't go anywhere. But it was me coming back into that, which then eventually led to me building this brand. But like express in whatever way feels good for you, because that is leading you to your purpose, essentially. And when a woman is living in her purpose and she's being selfish, she's happier. She's happier, she's healthier, she's hornier.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're at that vibration where you're just magnetizing all of the good things that we are worthy of. We are all worthy of the abundance that is here in this earth. And I think we're just programmed to think that we have to try all the time and we have to work so hard and we don't deserve things unless we're working hard. And that is such fucking bullshit. It really is. And I think the more of us that realize that that's bullshit, we're going to really change the world. One thing that you said about being a mother, though, and putting your children first. As a mother, I will tell listeners that it is my belief that you always put yourself first, even when you have children, because it's the whole, you have to put your own oxygen mask on first. You cannot show up for them unless you are fully living your own truth as well. And I've been in both positions. I feel like I'm more living my own truth now. And the way that I can show up for my children is just more authentic and with so much more energy and love, rather than in a past life where I was just scrambling. I was existing. I was just surviving. And the way that you can guide and teach your children is just so different when you're in those two different mindsets. Sure, you can keep food on the table and clothes on their back, but raising children is so much more than that. And I think that we really need to be caring for ourselves first.
100%. I'm not a mother. I just want to say that I think I was thinking more of like basic, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs,
Right,
like
right,
the
right.
essentials.
Right.
But yeah, I completely agree with you.
You can't be like, okay, baby, you just need to sit there screaming while I go into my meditative space. Yeah, obviously. Although there were moments, oh my gosh, where maybe it would have been better for me to take that shower rather than like respond to the screams that were actually just in my head and not actually in real life. But that's how we are just such givers. I think that that's something that we shouldn't turn away from. But the way that you describe coming back into ourselves by creating, I think is so important. I believe as women, we are vessels and we are meant to create. And like you said, it doesn't have to be for a purpose. And just the action of creating something from ourselves is so healing, and it is our true nature. So I know you've created this wonderful brand, but what else? What else are you creating in your life?
I mean, in terms of like tangible things I can tell you, I write songs and like play. I'm a fan of just anything you don't have to learn. You can shake a tambourine, a maraca, like anything simple. But I do have a guitar as well. Although when I've got my nails on, I can't do it. I'm not there yet. I love to write. I was laughing earlier at my friend. I was remembering, like, I'm one of those people that, like, if there's something I want to do, I'll just be audacious and do it. And in January, one of my big things that I want to do, like a vision board thing for me, is I want to create audio erotica for women. And I actually never done it in my life, never voice acted. I actually sent a bunch of auditions out to loads of brands and just sat on my floor in January at the beginning of this year, like moaning down a microphone, and just sent them round because I was like, this is a part of me. Like, I want to create these scripts for women. I didn't hear anything back, but I just think it's so important not to think it through too much. And that's what brought me over to Substack. I was like, okay, I want to write. And I always had this belief, I'm not a writer. And I was like, who says? I can literally type words, and I'm just rolling with that for now. But I see myself just co-creating life, like the social circles that I'm wanting to build, the opportunities that I want to build. Like it's all a creation that starts with me feeling good and me being visible and following those intuitive hits. So I see literally everything as a creation, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. I agree. One thing that I think I've struggled with, I've always kind of taken pride in being an adaptable person. And I just wrote about this recently. And I've come to the realization that in order to be adaptable, I have squashed parts of myself. And one manifestation of that is, well, I'm just easy. Like I can wear whatever. I don't, I don't pamper myself because I'm just an easy going kind of person. And I've been getting messages from my spirit guides saying, like, no, 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 fuck that. Have your glow up. Go spend money on yourself. I don't know if I could do nails, but maybe, maybe just put more care into my vessel and into my body. And I still have some resistance against that because I grew up poor and I feel like, this is extra money that isn't a necessity. But I feel like in a way it is. And so I think I saw some videos about you talking about a glow up that you've been going through. Talk a little bit more about that and the investment that you've put into yourself.
So I think, as someone who's kind of been on a spiritual journey, a huge part of that was realizing that it's okay to look not spiritual. Okay. Because the truth is, in my heart, I'm a raging hippie. Like, I love to be barefoot. I haven't wore bras or underwear for like 5 years unless I'm bleeding. Like, I can just be very like going and just like free. But I kind of had this realization. I was like looking at the beliefs around that, and I was like, why? Why do I do that? Is it actually because of comfort? And is it actually because I'm so free? Or is it because I have like this judgment around people who spend money on their appearance and get fake nails and dye their hair and wear lots of makeup? And I realized that I did. And I was like, well, who says? Well, my whole thing is I'm always like, who made up that rule? Like, who made up that rule? And I was like, no, I don't like that. And so I started experimenting with clothes and makeup. I did one of those color assessments and I found what colors really worked for me. And they're all like baby colors, like pastel colors. And it was just fun. I wrote a piece on Substack around this recently. I know it's a huge part of my path to get super, super rich, subjective, I know, and then be a living example of that for women. Because the truth is, we carry so much bullshit around earning money, having money, what it means. It means we're less spiritual. We can't charge for our services, whatever. Money is the most spiritual thing ever. There is no finite amount of money. If you earn loads of money, if I earn loads of money, it's not going to take money from someone else. Like, that's just not how it works. And I believe that more money in the hands of women makes the world a better place. Like, I know that I want to earn money, not so that I can like fly on a private jet and get like, I don't even know what a good car is because I'm not into cars. You do that if that's for you. I want money so that I can invest in other women's business. I can go for weekly massages by a woman. I can buy my clothes from an independent woman. That's why I want to be rich. And I just think that we've just got to keep peeling back these layers, because what I've noticed as well about building a brand is I'm very big at looking at other creators, and I think there's a specific mindset for people that get rich. I really, really think there's a mindset. And I've really been tapping into that and investigating it. And let me tell you, the men are not sat around going, but I'm not very spiritual if I earn loads of money. Oh, but what will people think? They don't care. And then they're getting richer. We're not, because we're so tied up in trying to be these like redeeming like angels put on earth that self-sacrifice, and there's no badge for struggling. There is no badge for struggling. And I just came to this realization the other day. I was like, I am sick of struggling. I don't want other women to struggle. I'm getting rich and I'm claiming it. And as part of that, I was like, well, would a rich and successful person wear the same dress for like a week and not take care of their appearance? No, she wouldn't. And so I was like, well, I need to step into a new frequency and I need to claim this. And as part of that, I was like, getting my nails done is not a regular thing for me. The other day I was like, okay, I'm a rich person. I'm getting my nails done. And it's amazing how these little things can just make us feel a little bit more upgraded, whatever that is for you, and just step into that version of myself before I am that version of myself.
So I am also in this space where I am trying to call in abundance, and I was given this frequency of abundance in this plant medicine journey, and I felt it come into my body, but then immediately I started thinking about, well, what's the difference between feeling like I am worthy of all of the abundance that is available in this world and entitlement? And I got stuck in this loop because we put down people who walk through this world expecting things to come to them, right? But there's a nuance, there's a difference. And I think it's in the intention. And what you said was so beautiful about wanting to uplift other people. That's exactly what I would do that's exactly what I will do. And I think that these words that we use are so important when we're stepping into this new space. But when I do receive the abundance, that is what I will do with it. I will help uplift other women. And it's not entitlement. Do you still have resistance in that way that you're working through?
Yeah, I think it will be ever evolving and ever changing, because we can do all the work prior to this. So I can do all the work to, clear the limiting beliefs and visualize myself rich. But then when that money actually comes in, there'll be a new layer to work through. I'm sure there'll be shame, there'll be guilt, there'll be imposter syndrome, whatever. And it's like, just keep working through it and keep expanding and keep showing my nervous system that it's safe to do all of these things. But the truth is, I'm sat listening to you and I'm like, okay, so say I do feel entitled to money and abundance. Is that really an awful thing? I don't know. I constantly look at myself through the lens of men. And I'm not saying we need to be like them, but I'm saying sometimes as women, because we're so beautifully emotional and caring, we can just get a bit too caught up in it. And I really sometimes don't think it's that deep. I think if you are using it for good, if you are acting in integrity, I don't want to be a billionaire and hoard all this money and like never give any of it back. But if I want to earn money and I want to spend it on plastic surgery, or I don't even know, like something that most people would be judgmental about, is kind of not my shit.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds really cocky, but I've just really started to think a little bit more like a man around money. I really have, because as women, and this is another reason why I want to be rich, we can so often find ourselves in very sticky situations because we don't have money and the men do. And I say that because I have been in situations where I have not been able to walk away because I have not had money. And I wish I had thought more like my boyfriends did at the time. Because what happened, and this is another pattern that I noticed, the two previous relationships that I had, in the relationships, I nurtured them while they were building something. They were both building personal brands. They were both building businesses. I nurtured the shit out of them, made them dinner, emotionally supported them. All of this stuff, none of them asked me to do. I take responsibility. Get to the breakup. They're minted. I'm broke. And it happened to me twice. And I thought, no, I will never stop being a caring and considerate person, but I also learnt to get a bit of a thicker skin and to just catch myself a bit more. Why am I overthinking this so much? Because they got rich because they weren't overthinking and they were prioritizing themselves. And I was like, well, if that's what I need to do. So I get it, but I think at the same time, as long as you are going to sleep at night, you're checking in with yourself and you're like, I am being true to myself. You are always, especially with money and status and success, gonna get people hating on you and judging you, and you kind of just have to get over it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because I think it's all just meant to take this frequency away from us. I often think back to, and I don't know what's exactly historically accurate, but I think about Cleopatra, and she's this epitome of this woman who was so intelligent and just absorbed so much knowledge, but also unapologetically leaned into beauty and adorned herself with gold. And I feel like she's this model of maybe what we should be leaning into.
Mm,
And I think that there is something to even physical possessions in this world having a frequency. And you think about gold in particular, how it's so highly valued. Many, many months ago, my spirit guides were like, go get some gold. And I was like, well, gold is so high right now. I can't get gold right now. That doesn't make any financial sense to buy gold right now. But maybe that's why I got a little bit stuck because I didn't go buy the gold. And because maybe if I had gone and gotten a gold necklace, it would have brought me up to that higher frequency, which would then magnetize even more abundance. These are things that we just don't think about because we're always so worried about perception and yeah, it's the lack mindset. It's just the am I worthy of this, and why am I worthy over all of these other people in the world who are
mm.
struggling?
And I just want to come back because something's just come through to me about this entitled piece as well when you talked about Cleopatra. Is it that you are actually entitled, or is it that you don't want to be perceived as entitled? I think
Um,
that is a key difference because if you look at Cleopatra, guarantee she had a bunch of people. I don't know what it was like back then, what people were like in terms of judgments, but now people are about, oh, she's a bit entitled. I talk about this a lot as well with women who raise their standards, like all the time. It's like, bloody hell, you're a bit difficult. Bloody hell, this, your standards are too high because I know what I want and I'm not afraid to communicate it. And that has been branded as arrogant, entitled, whatever. And I think it can be the same with that. Are we entitled? And again, it's so nuanced. I don't know the dictionary definition of entitled, but when you're going through that thought loop of, abundance or entitled, is that a true internal reflection, or is it, I don't want to be perceived as
um,
entitled? And that's the bit that I'm constantly working through because it's like inevitably people are going to judge me and have things to say, as they do online all the time. Like I get comments from people and I can't control how I am perceived. The only thing I can do is sit with it afterwards and being like, is that true for me? And if not, then they're entitled to their own opinion, free will. If it does bring something up for me, it's either I'm bothered by their opinion and I can rewrite that, or I've acted out of integrity. And then I can change that. But again, it's not getting too stuck in it and like going down this hole of like, I'm an awful person, I'm never going to show up again. It's like, right, didn't feel great. We get back on the horse tomorrow and we go again, type of thing.
Going back to relationships, it's been easier to figure out and to embody that frequency of being worthy of everything in the world. I've had tons of shit relationships and times that I have compromised and it didn't feel like I was compromising at the time, but then in retrospect you're like, that's not, I wasn't me. I wasn't fully me. And just recently I feel like I got it. I got it. And I was like, in my next relationship, I want to be worshiped. That is the level that I am expecting. And I didn't have any pushback internally thinking that entitlement fear, that fear of not being worthy. I'm like, and I think it was because I got to that place inside myself where I am good. I am so good all by myself. I love being by myself. I have so much fun by myself. And in order for someone else to come in, I want them to worship me in the same way that I worship myself. And I think now that I've gotten there with relationships, it's the next hurdle to get there with money. And I don't know why money is harder for me in particular than relationships. But I feel like we're constantly climbing this ladder and leveling up. Do you do you have you had any experiences like that where you're kind of like okay, well I'm here in this area of my life and I want to be there in this area of my life, but there's just some kind of key that I'm missing or some kind of thought or perception that I still need to eliminate from my past and work through. I love that. the tapping modality. I think I need to learn more about that because it's such a real energetic way to be like, this is a limiting belief that was from before, and that's not where I am now.
I work by the law of assumption. So every night when I go to bed, I say, show me what I need to see if there's something that I need to see. And if not, then I assume not. And if something comes up, I work through it and I move on. If it doesn't, I assume I'm on the right path, because sometimes we can block ourselves by thinking that there's more that we need to eliminate, more we need to eliminate because it's not happening. It's not, maybe it's just divine timing, maybe it's just not your time. And that picking at it is like picking at a scab, like you're not allowing the wound to heal. And so I think that's why I love the law of assumption, because it's like, if you don't show me something very clearly through a dream, through a person, a message, whatever, I will assume that it's just on its way to me. I've had to practice doing that, but now that's where I'm at because, sometimes we don't get what we want for a reason that's only going to become clear when we finally get it. And that grasping, as someone who has to, I know it sounds counterintuitive, I have to work hard at not grasping, surrendering and letting go of control has been one of the biggest parts of my healing journey. And I honestly believe that's why I got sick, because I was just trying to manhandle life so much and control it. But yeah, there's loads of stuff that I want and I don't have yet, but I trust that everything is working out for my highest good. So it's like I keep doing day to day, following those intuitive nudges. We'll just see what happens. I guess that's all we can do, because we don't have any control over it.
One thing that came up for me when I was thinking about the word untamed is I have lots of dramatic things happen to me in my life. Like just yesterday, this kind of outlandish story about a family member. And I was telling a friend, and they're like, these things. These things don't happen to everybody. And if I were to tell that story to somebody who doesn't know me, they would think that I'm lying because it's just so over the top. And sometimes I wonder why, especially when it's a negative thing. Like I had this necrotizing fasciitis and I almost died over the summer. I'm like, universe, why? Why bring so much drama to my life? But then on the other hand, I think deep down, I play with it. It's like I feel alive by having this kind of untamed life. And I have this constant knowing that everything is going to be okay. And so I allow these really dramatic things to happen because they accelerate my healing and my growth and help me level up in these ways that are really quick and almost instantaneous in some respects. That when something happens and it's really forceful, it's that kick rather than that nudge. And I feel like I'm just jumping up the hill rather than walking up the hill in this way. Do you feel that way in your own life, that being untamed in a way is allowing things to unfold, even if it is fast or even if it is dramatic?
So many different parts came up for me when you were telling me that story, because I do just think it's so nuanced and I can't just give like a blanket answer. The only thing I can do is share my own experience, and that is sometimes things happen very dramatically because there's a theory and it's got a name to it and I can't remember it, where it's when you are just in a life that's okay and it seems okay and you're pretty happy and it's fine and nothing awful's happening, it's pretty okay, but you are meant for more, then life will literally throw a shitstorm at you and to force you out of it, because you're not supposed to live this mediocre life that most people are living. So I think there's that. And I've definitely had experiences where I think definitely with health issues, it's like, okay, you have to strive for more and you have to put yourself out there, because I think I knew for a long time that I needed to be putting myself out there and be invisible, but I was so scared because with it comes so much good and bad. So I think there's that. There is also the kind of subconscious reprogramming part of me does believe that if my outside world is constantly chaotic, it's because my inside world is constantly chaotic. And that was reflected back to me over and over and over and over again. I can say this past year and a half, since I've been celibate, since I've been focusing on myself and I'm more regulated, my life is not dramatic anymore. And that's not to say stuff doesn't happen.
Right.
But it was carnage before. It was non-stop drama. And now sometimes if I do get like a little flurry, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to pause and I'm just going to check in with myself, because I believe that, And again, this is nuanced because if a war breaks out, it doesn't mean that it's a reflection of me. I'm just talking about, specifically if things are just happening around me, I am like, okay, what's going on? And I check in with myself. So I think there's that. And then there is just sometimes things just happen. Sometimes things just happen and maybe we can't always see a clear reason why or a reflection of ourselves or whatever. And with that, I just trust at some point it will make sense. But I used to be someone who'd be like, why has this happened? Let me dig. Let me get to the root. And it was like, oh God, I'm tired. So I think you just have to intuitively feel which one of these is right for you. And that's where the sitting with yourself and using the tools and, just asking, yep, I'm open to guidance, and then just seeing what happens can be useful.
I think so much of it is learning to what's yours and what's not. Like with what happened yesterday, I very quickly just came to this is not my circus. And I think the lesson for me was I was letting this person in a little bit and I'm not supposed to. That this is outside of me and I need to build those walls back up. What came up for me with what you were saying too is I am a meaning maker. I feel like when things happen, I want to assign meaning to it right away, which I think is helpful to some extent. But at the same time, I think that we get caught in this mindset that we always need to be fixing ourselves or fixing something. And what I'm realizing more and more is that I'm good. I don't need to constantly be grasping for the next thing and leveling up. It's more kind of settling in. I think what you said at the beginning, settling into who you are in your true nature, who you were as that 2-year-old child, the wonder, the love that you had. And that's really what we're meant to do rather than even healing. I kind of cringe at a little bit. It's like it's not really a healing, it's really a remembering of who we are.
I totally agree. And I think the thing with meaning is I'm really big on talking about closure because I just think it's not real, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I think that we often grasp for meaning because we think if we understand why, then we can move on with our lives. And one thing that I have learned in life is you might never find out why, because especially if it's a repercussion of other people's actions and behaviors, you can make up a bunch of stories why that will make yourself feel better, but we're never really going to know why. So you have to learn to give yourself closure. And most of the time, closure is just in the event itself. That's how I see it. If something has been removed from my life, that's all the closure I need. Then that's not supposed to be in my life. And maybe at some point down the line, I'll have this epiphany as to why. But pouring all that energy into trying to figure out why often just keeps us from actually moving through the thing that we need to move through. That's been my experience anyway.
And that happens to us so much in relationships, the trying to figure out what happened and how can I do better in the future and how can I prevent this from happening? And I think you're right. It doesn't have to be that complicated. The door
Mm.
shut and don't open that door again. It's it's one thing that I'm teaching my teenage daughter is when doors shut, I think they're meant to be shut. And I think sometimes we romanticize what was and the pieces of it that was and try to get that door to open up again. And I think the universe is pretty clear with shutting
Mm.
doors that they are just meant to stay closed.
I think especially when it's something that's like really brutal, which I know is really, really difficult. Like if you have a friend that suddenly just doesn't want to be a friend anymore or a relationship, it's hard. But I always just think like, if they were supposed to be in my life, oh, but they will be in my life because sometimes doors do reopen. I'm not saying you go and reopen the door. Sometimes they might
Exactly.
just fling open again themselves. But I'm 34 and it wasn't like this in my 20s. I used to, be like, I need to open this door again. Let me back in. I'm now just much more like, do you know what? It's all good. You don't need to hold a grudge. It's that person wasn't supposed to be in my life. This is not the time for this to happen. I'm going to let it go. It saved me a lot of stress, to be honest.
One more thing that came up for me is we invest so much energy into relationships. How have you worked through that feeling? Well, what was the reason? Why did I invest so much of myself into something that then now the door is closed? Because for me, it's not necessarily the person, it's not necessarily the situation. but it's the fact that I've poured so much of myself into something and then to completely turn away from something that I invested so much into. How do you advise people work through that feeling in particular?
I think if I just come back to my own examples, I just feel like it's all just lessons.
Yeah.
Because when I think about all of the energy that I invested, don't get me wrong, like, I think there's a period of anger and resentment that one must go through. I am not a love and light person. I'm a be positive and feel good as much as possible, but I am a feel your feelings and go to the shadows
Yeah.
person. And I think use that as fuel. So if I think back to myself, like, why did I invest all that energy? What, it's so much wasted time, but all of that feeling, allow yourself to feel it and then transmute it into, well, I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to leave myself and abandon myself again, because that's what I used to do. That was the energy. Instead of saying, what do I need today? It was, what does that person need today? And then give them all my energy. And that pattern will just continue. It's becoming aware of it and choosing to redirect and transmute that energy into something else. And for me, it was transmuting it into my own self-care, my own healing, my own finding out what I do like and my own expression and creation. And I just think it's never really wasted, because it might feel it, but if you choose to look at it afterwards and make some changes and decide that you're not going to behave that way again, then it's not wasted, because I'm so excited to get into my next relationship. Like, I'm so excited because all of this work that I've done, and it's not going to be perfect and shit's still going to come up and I'm still going to get triggered. Like, we're human, but I'm in such a solid place that I just know I won't accept less than what I'm giving myself. So I'm like, how amazing is this relationship going to be? And it's only because I went through those really traumatic breakups and relationships that I'm now in this place. And now I'm going to have the healthiest, best relationship of my life next time. Like, how cool is that? And that is because of me, because I chose to look at myself. And I just think that's it. It's all perspective. Go to those places, be angry, be mad, but come out the other side and just choose a different path, essentially, in a nutshell.
Exactly. So, Amy, what's next for you? What are you excited about that's coming up?
Well, we're just about to go into deep, dark winter in England. So I am just excited to just create with no expectations at the minute. I feel like I'm stepping into a new layer of saying what I want to say, because it is just constantly peeling back the layers, sharing my message, writing a lot more on Substack, and just allowing things to unfold naturally. I'm excited to just keep showing up and just keep creating and seeing what opportunities come from that. That's kind of in the place that I'm in at the minute, and getting cozy, because what else is there to do when it's so cold and dark? You have to romanticize it.
I think those of us who don't live in England romanticize Christmas time in England. Does it bring up, is it as beautiful and lovely as it shows in the movies?
Well, if we're talking about, like, for example, the film The Holiday, which I think most people have seen, I mean, it doesn't usually snow on Christmas, and most people don't live in a countryside cottage. I actually did live in a countryside cottage last year when it was snowing in January and February, and you couldn't do anything. The world, like England, we're not good with weather in England. Like, if there's like a tiny bit more rain than usual, or it's a tiny bit colder, or the sun is a little bit hotter, like everyone freaks out, and it's like people just can't handle it. So I personally just don't come for me, any listeners, but like, I'm just not bothered about Christmas. I'm really just not. I'm not religious, and I'm not a huge consumerism person. So it's just a bit of a non-event for me. It's like a lot of hype over nothing. So I'm actually spending Christmas on my own this year, which was empowering choice for me to make. So I was like, I don't actually want to do any of this Christmas family stuff, so I'm not going to do any of it. It's just very grey and very dark and very rainy. And people get quite sad, which is why I'm just going to create, because that, to me, what's the expression is the opposite to depression. That's
Euphoria.
the quote.
Joy.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Amy. I am so excited to see what you do next. I feel like you have really big things right around the corner for you. So thank you so much for sharing this time with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure to chat to you.
Thank you for tuning in to Goddess in Training. I hope something in this episode stirred your knowing or softened your heart. If it spoke to you, share it with someone who needs it, or leave a review or comment to help others find us. If you're watching on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you want to hear more conversations like this, please consider supporting Goddess in Training on Patreon. For more tools and offerings to deepen your intuition practice, visit goddessintraining.online. You can also join the Scroll of Seshat on Substack for twice-weekly stories of how I followed my intuition. The music for Goddess in Training is Madre Ayahuasca by Arkawa, and you can find more of his music in the link to his website in the show notes. Remember, your intuition is not a mystery, it's a memory. Keep listening.
Resplandor del fuego, estrellita, tabaco santo, fuerza de rape, soplo de luz, soplo encantador.